to the Explainer. Man, I am so incredibly excited to dive into this one with you. Today, we're undertaking a cinematic dissection of an absolute cultural titan. We're diving headfirst into The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle. We're going to break down the detective who didn't just, solve crimes, but who literally made the very act of observation feel like an absolute superpower.
I mean, think about it. Way before the slick forensic dramas, the genius consultants, and the true crime obsession we have today, there was Sherlock Holmes. As he so famously proved, the world gives everyone the exact same clues, right? But Holmes is the one who actually sees them. This is a guy who can just glance at the knees of your trousers, the wear on your sleeve, or the quirks of your typewriter, and suddenly read your entire hidden life story. Conan Doyle's hero made the simple act of noticing feel like absolute magic.
So, let's open up the case file. Today, we're breaking down the first genius detective, the Holmes mystery formula, classic cases and themes, the method to the magic, the essential Dr. Watson, and finally, blueprint for modern mystery. Let's get right into it. Starting off with Section 1, the first genius detective. Time to enter 221 Baker Street. Now, there's a pretty massive modern misconception about Sherlock Holmes we need to clear up right away. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes is actually not a single continuous novel. It's a collection of short detective stories, all narrated by Dr. John Watson. They were originally published episodically in The Strand magazine, before being gathered into a single collection back in 1892. And honestly, this format is absolutely crucial to understanding how the legend grew so quickly. You could just pick up any issue of the magazine and be instantly plunged into a totally self-contained mystery. And these episodic stories feature just an incredible, wild range of bizarre problems that clients dragged up the stairs to 221B Baker Street. Like in A Scandal in Bohemia, Holmes faces royal blackmail and the brilliant Irene Adler, literally the one woman to ever truly outwit him. Then we've got a terrifying locked room mystery in The Adventure of the Speckled Band. Or how about The Adventure of the Blue Carbuncle, which literally kicks off with a stolen, priceless gemstone found stuffed down the throat of a Christmas goose. You really don't need a massive overarching plot when every single standalone case is just this wildly inventive. Moving to Section 2, the Holmes mystery formula, from chaos to pattern. You see, Conan Doyle relied on a master narrative engine, this absolutely brilliant 5-step formula. Step 1, a client arrives with a bizarre, almost impossible-sounding mystery. Step 2, Holmes calmly sits back and observes the overlooked clues. The mud, the exact timing, some tiny detail everyone else totally misses. Step 3, the police, usually Inspector Lestrade, jump to false, highly melodramatic assumptions. Step 4, Holmes steps in, applies cold, hard deduction, and strips away all that drama. And finally, Step 5, the big reveal, where Holmes reconstructs the entire hidden story, proving the truth was literally right there all along. But the true appeal here isn't just solving the crimes. No, the appeal is watching chaos become pattern. The real thrill for the reader isn't the violence or the gore. Honestly, there's surprisingly little of that. It's that deeply, deeply satisfying moment of intellectual clarity. It's watching a completely chaotic, terrifying situation suddenly snap into undeniable, logical sense right before your very eyes. It's like watching a giant puzzle solve itself. Which brings us to Section 3, classic cases and themes. The hidden rot of society. Take a story like The Red-Headed League. The setup is just utterly absurd. A pawnbroker is paid handsomely to sit in a room and copy the encyclopedia simply because he has fiery red hair, only to have this mysterious league suddenly vanish. But what's the logical truth? It was an elaborate, weeks-long distraction to get him out of his shop so thieves could dig a tunnel into a massive bank vault right next door. Holmes constantly cuts right through the theatrical, the bizarre, to find the cold, hard criminal reality. And when you look at the major themes of this collection, you see what really drives these stories. First, observation as power. It teaches us the sheer thrill of paying attention. Then there's logic versus chaos. And, super importantly, the hidden side of respectable society. These cases are constantly exposing the greed, the blackmail, the bitter inheritance disputes, and the abusive households lurking right beneath the surface of polite Victorian life. And finally, justice beyond the law. Remember, Holmes isn't a cop. He actually often prioritizes moral justice over legal punishment. If he feels the law is just too blunt an instrument for true justice, he'll literally let the culprit walk away. Let's slide into Section 4, the method to the magic, the world as a puzzle. Just look at this quote, straight from the text. It has long been an axiom of mine that the little things are infinitely the most important. That right there,
That is his entire core philosophy. Where everyone else looks at the big, dramatic, flashy picture, Holmes zeroes in on the little things. He knows that the type of clay on a boot, the cubic capacity of a man's hat, a strange metallic clang in the middle of the night, or a severed bell rope, those hold the real answers. Well, provided you have the intellect to actually read them. Now, maintaining this intense focus requires a highly unique position in society. Holmes is the quintessential genius outsider. He operates completely outside normal institutions. I mean, he's not quite official police, but he's also not exactly your standard, polite Victorian gentleman. And that outsider status is arguably his greatest asset. It allows him to see right past the rigid class biases of his era and the slow, unimaginative procedures of Scotland Yard. He looks at the world not as it's supposed to be, but exactly, objectively, as it is.
On to Section 5, the essential Dr. Watson, the warmth to the cold.
You really have to look at the clear duality between these two characters. Holmes is cold logic, Watson is warm humanity. Holmes is the detached reasoning machine, Watson is the emotional anchor. Holmes is the observant genius, while Watson is the relatable storyteller. It is a perfectly balanced literary symbiosis. Honestly, without one, the other just simply doesn't work on the page. So, the absolutely crucial point here is that without Watson, Holmes is really just a cold puzzle machine. It's Watson who turns deduction into drama. Watson is us. He's the audience surrogate. He's the one who admires Holmes, who questions his crazy methods, who actually feels the suspense and the fear in those dark alleys. He gives these stories their warmth and their human perspective, making Holmes's dazzling, sometimes alienating intellect totally accessible. Watson is the exact reason Sherlock Holmes became a legend, rather than just some dry, abstract calculator.
Zooming out to our final section, Section 6, Blueprint for Modern Mystery, a Century of Influence. It is honestly staggering how many modern tropes were born directly from this one collection. Crime drama detectives, forensic investigators, the eccentric genius consultants, puzzle mystery heroes, analytical anti-heroes. Literally every brilliant investigator on your TV screen today who spots what everyone else misses, who relies on a crazy mental database of obscure facts, or who leans on a grounded, very human partner. They owe their absolute DNA to the methods established right here in the adventures of Sherlock Holmes.
And that brings us to a really beautiful realization. Holmes makes the very act of thinking itself feel cinematic. Conan Doyle essentially set the absolute gold standard for mysteries by creating a hero who conquers villains not with sheer physical strength or, massive shootouts, but with a vastly sharper mind. He turned calm, quiet reasoning into the ultimate thrilling spectacle. Which leaves us with this final, lingering question to chew on. What if every mystery has a pattern, and the truth is just hiding in plain sight? That is the deeply empowering fantasy Conan Doyle leaves us with. It challenges us to look a little closer at our own world, to really pay attention, and to believe that if we just know how to look, the chaos will finally become clear. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Now I challenge you to go out there and really observe.